Hello, this is the Guy's Voice podcast. This is episode 5, and I'll be joined by Tyler Heinze and Brianna. Tyler is Guy's brother, and as you know, he featured on the documentary, so he's going to come on and speak about that. But before we do that, Guy is going to call in and give everybody a little update on his case. He's on the phone now, so that he's in the queue first. So he's going to call in. So I just want to make sure there's enough people on here before I put him on. Brianna, are you calling in now? Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, Tyler is about to call in too. What?
After you when we figured out a break.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
That's okay.
Sorry, I need to pull it up and call in. Sorry, we're running behind as always.
That's okay, because Guy's literally just about to call me back. He just phoned me so that he could be at the front of the queue. So he's going to be on for the first 15 minutes. So that works out perfectly then if Tyler's running behind.
Great, get everything.
You can be preparing.
So, yep.
Yes.
Guy's about to call in and he's going to talk like for a minute, so we'll get what we do.
So I'm going to put Guy on. I'm going to put him onto speaker. Brianna, actually, I might disconnect you so that it's quieter to hear Guy.
Okay.
I'm going to do that.
All right.
Using security. You may start the conversation now.
Hello. Hello. Okay, right. So I'm going to put Guy on, and Guy's going to give everybody an update on his case. And then hopefully the sound should be good for everyone to hear him. Okay, over to you then, Guy.
Can everyone hear me? Hello? Hello?
Can someone just type to say they can hear Guy clearly? The sound is great. Okay, go ahead.
All right. I want to give everybody an announcement. Listen, I'm doing this for a couple reasons. Don't come on here for a record of the events. But listen, my lawyer had filed my appeal. Basically without really telling me. I just got a letter. I just got a copy of his brief Friday. Of the appeal he submitted to the Supreme Court. He consulted with me. I wrote him 4 times. Told him that I needed to physically talk with him. I wanted to make changes to the appeal. I wanted to add to the appeal. I wanted to do it completely different. He hadn't consulted with me one bit. And he files and submits the appeal. He doesn't raise but one issue, one error he raised for error, which one issue he raised for error. And I want to state on the record, I totally disagree. I don't disagree with the error he raised. The error he raised is a great error, but I disagree with not raising multiple errors. And he ain't consulted with me, period. And I want to put that on record. I'm going to write the judge on it. I'm going to write and I'm writing the clerk court. I'm just trying to get a record established. Like, I haven't talked to this dude, period. And this is what happens in this country when you don't have money, when you can't afford lawyers. This is exactly what this is like. And I'm not exaggerating or sugarcoating this one bit. I ain't seen that dude in over a year. I ain't talked to him or nothing. And I repeatedly told him this. So now I have an appeal that's filed with the Supreme Court. Like, he's going to have an oral argument in October, and I didn't even know nothing about that. Jody had to find out online. I didn't know nothing about that. So he's going to argue this one error that we raised for appeal. And I guess I'm going to sink or swim with that.
Do you want to explain to everyone, Guy, like how Georgia's like changed the way they look at appeals now, which is like why?
This is the. Yeah, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
This is one of the main reasons, right? Daniel found there's a new law that's been passed down this year. It's called the cumulative error review law. So essentially, how they used to do it was they look at each error raised and decide would that one error have swayed the jury changed or had any effect on the trial, and they judge it as each individual error. Now, the cumulative review, they judge every error raised together and said, would that as a whole had an effect? So this basically makes no sense to me why he didn't raise none of these errors. He has in his letter to me, all he said was, this was our best issue. I filed this to focus on our best issue. We would have lost on our law. That contradicts everything about the new law, which makes me leads me to believe that he knew about the new law. But I don't know because he won't talk to me.
Yeah. So Chris.
And another thing that don't make no sense to me is why in my motion for retrial that we filed with the trial judge, why would you even raise? He raised multiple errors on that one, and this one error we raised right here. Why would you even raise multiple errors in it if you ain't gonna raise them out? Why would you raise them out?
Yeah.
So, it's really frustrating. I really don't know, but I'm coming on interstate on record, so this would be on record that I disagree and was not consulted with this appeal that I'm forced my appeal that I'm forced to go with now.
Yeah. Crystal's asked whether once the appeal starts, whether things can be added to it afterwards. From what I've managed to find out so far is that this is only by speaking to one person, that her son's appeal was filed, and then that was filed with a public defender, and then they hired a private attorney, which cost $25,000 to do the appeal, and he was able to amend it, but everyone has to agree to it being amended. So the prosecution, the judges, everyone has to agree to it being amended. So yeah.
Yeah. This listen, everybody's seen the I don't know if my old appeal was true personally, but everybody's seen, like, I know Daniel posted that about this new cumulative review law. And that's one thing I just can't get over, how he's done. Like, it's basically like, I don't even know if he knows about this.
Yeah. Well, you're sending him everything, aren't you? So we'll find out whether he knew about it or not. I don't know.
So basically the thing about this is just getting a record. Well, I just want to get a record. So somewhere down the line, I mean, hopefully I have to eat these words, and my case gets overturned or thrown out based on the appeal that you filed. Which I want to say this: the one error that you raised is a great error. You know, I mean, I think you have a great argument. I will say that, a great argument. But I just can't get past why not raising the other one, and that's even more issue. The fact that I can't get past it, at least if he talked to me, maybe I would get past it. I just don't know because I can't talk to him and he won't respond to it.
Yeah.
Everything he responds to is after the fact.
That's what we said earlier, wasn't it? Like, if he'd have sat down with you and said, right, this is what I'm doing and these are the reasons, you might have said, oh, right, okay, that actually makes sense. But the fact that he's just done it and sent you it.
In our great country, this great American country, this great justice system, if you don't have any money, this is how you're going to get dealt with right here. This is how you're going to get dealt with. You'll get a letter in the mail after the fact on everything. None of your ideas, nothing. So basically, it's like, I haven't had no say-so whatsoever in my appeal, period. And that's God's honest truth. I haven't had no say-so, period. You're just taking their professional opinion, and you're going to get that maybe one time, and that's it. You just got to run with it. This is sad. This ain't just me. There's probably plenty of other people out in the country just like me right now. Thank God that he's giving me like a platform and people to help me that cares about me to try to get this word out here. Because this is imperative, right? This is important about this get documented right anytime down the road. Because I mean, I guess where this will go was me filing inefficient counsel on him. I don't even know how none of this works. I don't know what to do, period. All I know right now is just to buckle up right now in the passenger seat. No, I'm not even in the passenger seat. I'm in the back seat. And just go along for the ride. I guess I'll find out in October. I'll find out because it's an oral argument. He goes, I won't get to go there. I'll get another letter in the mail sometime down the road telling me what's up. Telling me either denied or hopefully granted.
We can actually track that online. So there might even be a chance that we find out before he even lets you know, believe it or not.
Yeah, let's say that again, baby. Listen. Jody had to find out about these oral orders from me in October online or whatever. I guess that's a website you can go to.
Mm-hmm.
That is how bad it is. That's how bad. I didn't even know this. She had to find out. I mean, any person in the world can just go on there and find out. I mean, when do you think that your attorney should be the one to tell me that?
Yeah. Crazy.
And there's also, I want to direct this too, but there's the letter posted that I wrote to him before, and telling him that I want to change. That's posted on the group too. That's another document.
Yeah, that's on the group.
I want to say this again. Listen. I'm not trying to undermine my attorney. That's what I'm not going to say about that. I'm not trying to undermine. I vote the argument on the one error that he raised, but I don't agree with not raising multiple errors. I want to stress that. That is the issue here, and not the lack of communication, period. And I just feel like, I mean, something like this with this thing, it don't matter if you're innocent or not. I mean, at the very least, I can understand he's appointed by the state, he's not making a lot of money, but at the very least, it don't take much. It does not take much to respond. I mean, I would have been happier if he just responded to that period, told me I ain't changing it, this is my professional opinion, and we're going with it. I've been more happier with that. Just something, instead of not knowing. That's what makes you so mad.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say that, it makes you want to cry.
Tyler's put, there's so many things done wrong that need to be mentioned.
Yeah, we're going to get talking about more. Y'all going to hear more about it today with Tyler and Joey's talking about the documentary. All these things done wrong. I mean, everybody's read Daniel's petition. I mean, there is. I mean, watch the documentary. There is so much stuff done wrong. I don't see how a lawyer of over 30 years can think that just raising one error is my best course of action. I'm flabbergasted by that. I cannot understand it. Especially with the new humans. And the bottom line is, it don't matter if I could or it don't matter if that's a professional opinion. I feel like I should be able to sink or swim with my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should be able to sink or swim with my opinion.
Yeah, have a say in it.
Because I don't have no money, because I have a court lawyer, because I'm innocent. This is what happens. It is. Remember, listen, I'm not trying to sound like a huge humanitarian or like this, but there's people all over the country. There's 320-something million people in the country, in the United States. There's people all over the place, all over each state that's going through the same thing. Nobody knows about them. You can't hear about them because they ain't got nobody to help. Lost in the system. System ain't perfect. I mean, yeah, most people probably supposed to be here, but what about the few that's not?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I want to say something else. My lawyer told me, this lawyer, now granted, he told me, what he's telling me is not a lie. He said the state only paid him $400 to handle my appeal. Granted, that is chump change compared to what he's had to do. But I mean, this is something else you need to think about. If you're indigent, the state's willing to throw $400 at this man right here. And this is the legal system, all right? This is crazy. But I don't know. I just want to thank everybody. Thank everybody that's listening. This has helped me. Let's please listen. I want to say something else about the petition too. Let's please try to get some more signatures on this petition, because that's kind of thrown out right now. We did send it before, and we want to get more signatures and send it to the Supreme Court. But now that my appeal is already filed, I still want to send it again. Hopefully, these judges will read this right here, even though I got an appeal file. Think like there's a lot more going on here than just one issue. Hopefully, maybe that'll happen.
Yeah. You've got a couple more minutes. You've still got a couple of minutes. Yeah, no, you've still got a couple of minutes to go. Got anything else you want to talk about? Oh, hang on. Tyler said, not only thank everyone, but Guy, tell people we need more ideas. We need to figure out how to communicate with prominent people that can help us.
That's great. That's a great point right there. Listen. This page right here, this guy's was just getting the word out of this. This thing right here is the brainchild of Tyler, Jody, Brianna, my grandma. All of them put countless hours work into this page right here. It's hard. It's hard coming up with ideas. It's hard knowing who to contact. Like the endless feeling of knowing you need to contact somebody, but not knowing what to do. Any ideas that anybody, it don't matter what it is, knowing how small it is. Billy, call my grandma, call Tyler, Brianna. Any ideas, anything we can do to reach people more, make this page better? Because this is hard, no one to do. It's just getting up every day and trying something.
Yeah.
But when it's a life or death situation, I mean, it still motivates you. But like I said, this goes back to what I said. There's people all over the United States in the same position as me right now. They ain't got nobody to help. Nobody to help. They're waiting on a letter in the mail about their appeal that they don't know nothing about. They didn't have no say so in it. So anybody's got any ideas, knows anybody who can write something that make this page more better, anything to make this platform better. I mean, we're welcome to all ideas.
Definitely.
But we definitely know we don't know it all. We're just trying something.
Definitely.
I know I don't want to stay stuck in here for the rest of my life or something I didn't do because I didn't have the money to get a proper attorney.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Probably got like just over a minute.
You and Tyler y'all are about to talk about the documentary. Sorry,
Yep.
documentary.
Yep, just about to do a documentary.
Everybody
You
listen
have 1 minute left.
There you go.
Well, there's time to listen. The phone's about to hang up on time. Listen. Thank y'all. Thank you, everybody who's listening to this. Pass the word along. Please let it. Please get the word out there. Sign my petition. There's nothing else to say. Just thank everybody. Thank everybody. Thank y'all.
The caller has hung up.
Okay, so that's the update on Guy's case. What I'll do is I will post it in the group as well. So now that Guy's kind of announced it on here, I will post it into the group so everyone knows what's going on, and I'll repost the information about how Georgia now have changed how they look at the appeals, so you can kind of see why Guy's cannot understand why his attorneys only put one error on there. And if you've seen the documentary, even just from what you see on the documentary, you can tell that there was multiple errors in that trial. And if anyone doesn't know how the appeal works, only things that came up in the trial can be put onto the appeal. So anything that we found out since can't be included on the appeal. It's only things that came up in the trial. So his lawyer won't talk to anybody, Crystal. He won't talk to anybody. So, okay, right. Brianna's now online.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm with Brianna.
Tyler.
We're on the same call.
One call. Perfect. Excellent. Right. So I'm going to hand it over to you then, Tyler, to talk about the documentary. And we'll chat about that. And I know a couple of people are calling in with some questions for you as well. We just had about 20 people watching it in the group, which was really good. I noticed people that have seen it before as well, still get just as mad, second, third time watching it. It's what I do as well. But yeah. So I'm going to pass it over to you then to talk about your experiences with doing the documentary. And if any questions come up as we're going along, if anyone's got any questions, just type them and I will write them down and I will ask them to Tyler and Brianna as we're going along. Okay, then over to you, Tyler.
So me and Brianna were just watching parts of the documentary, kind of to refresh my memory, and seeing a lot of it. I was young and I said some things I felt like were mature and that I should have said. There's other things that I didn't say that I felt like, looking back on it now, I should have said, but people always say hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
But
how long has it been since you saw it last? Since you sat and watched the whole thing?
A couple months ago, me and Brianna watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the main thing about it is, though, we never expected it to blow up like it did. That's obviously, I believe in my heart, that's the hand of God that this documentary was made. We could have tried to fight and say, hey, we're going to be on TV. We want to make some money off of this. But had we done that, it would have took away from what the bigger picture was. People would have thought we were just trying to make money off of the situation. They wouldn't have believed that we're really out here fighting for my brother. So it's good that we went about it the way we did. And then watching the documentary, people connected with us. They realized, hey, these are regular people. they have regular lives, but this crazy situation has happened to them. I lost my mom back in 2004, way before any of this ever happened, and then when all this happened, I lost my dad as well. And then the same token, they took my brother from me just like that. And it's like these things happen to people, and sometimes tragedy breaks you, or sometimes tragedy makes you. And I feel like this tragedy has made me stronger. It made me grow up a little faster. It turned me into a man. But also, it showed me and my grandma. My grandma used to be a person that believed that the police said you were guilty. They must have had a reason to say you were guilty. The police are always right. And it showed me, just like doctors, lawyers, teachers, the police are regular people. They have regular problems. They have sins that they hide. So you always have to look at somebody and judge by their actions and their character who they really are. You can't believe anything anybody says. You have to look them in the eye. You have to determine if the things they're telling you are truthful or false. And the police in this situation were very crooked. They did things that I know that they know in their hearts were wrong, but that's how they operated down there in Georgia. As people can see with Jackie Johnson now, they have always had a culture of bullying, had a culture of lying, had a culture of manipulating things to get the answers and get the solutions that they wanted from trials. They weren't convicting people because of evidence. They were convicting people because their friends were really guilty, and they wanted their police officer friends to not be guilty. So they got other people charged. And I don't know if people see how widespread this is, but there's so much corruption on the state level, all the way up to the government level, to the president. There's just things that people do behind closed doors that you will never find out about. You will never know about until it comes to the light, until you see it on TV. This stuff's happening every day. Just like this pedophile ring with Jeffrey Epstein. I know it's totally off the topic, but people didn't believe that there was kids getting shipped around the world to have sex with famous people for money. But that's still happening every day.
Yeah.
My thing has always been, I don't like to assume the worst about people, but until I see that somebody's a good person, it's safe to go ahead and assume there's something about this person that's probably not right. There's something this person's doing behind closed doors that you would shake your head at if you knew about it. And that mindset has kept me honest in situations. It's made me think about, hey, can this person hurt me? Can this person help me? Can I consider this person a friend? Can I count on this person? And I feel like that applies to so many situations in life, and that helps you know who's in your circle and know who's around you. That's just like Jody. I didn't know Jody very long ago, but just seeing the way that Jody moves, the way that she interacts with people, the way that she works hard for my brother's case, I trust Jody. I consider her a good friend. I consider her a good woman for my brother. And just like meeting my woman, I've been with women in my life that I knew weren't for me. I knew I shouldn't be around them. And then when I met Brianna, I realized she was a good girl. She's a good mother. And that's what you got to do in life. You got to put your pieces together to see if these situations are going to be better for your future. And right now, that's what we're doing with this page and this podcast. We're putting all these pieces together. We're getting everybody that can help our situation, and we're putting them together just like Daniel. Daniel is a very smart man, very thoughtful and inquisitive. And those are the kind of people we need to help us. We need more people like Daniel, more people like Jody that are willing to pull their time and their heart into this. They're not getting paid. Jody, Daniel, they're not making $1 off of this. They're doing this to help my brother because they see he's an innocent man that's been wronged. And it's hard to find people like that because we had Cindy and we thought Cindy was such a great person.
Yeah.
We thought Cindy was really out here helping us. And then the more we found out, the more we heard, we realized Cindy had her own motives. We realized Cindy had dealt with cases in the past where she was doing wrong and trying to take money from people. And it's a very good example, like me and my grandma had got an argument about it because I seen some things early on that made me question Cindy. And she was being really sweet to my grandma and trying to fool my grandma. And it took my grandma a little longer to find out about it. But now my grandma sees it too. So after a while, what's done in the dark is going to come to the light. You can always hide stuff for a little while. You can always cover it up and lie about it. But it always comes out.
Yeah. Do you find you trust people less since this has happened?
I mean, I would rate that on the same scale. I would never say I trust anybody less. I would just say I'm much more quick to assume that somebody's doing bad. I'm much more quicker to jump and say, oh, this is a bad person than I am to say it's a good person. Because to be a good person, you have to do a lot to show you're a good person.
Yeah.
To be a bad person, you only got to do one thing really bad to be a bad person.
Yeah, that makes like so much sense when you say it like that. It does.
And everybody's
It really
moral
does.
compass is different. Back to the Jeffrey Epstein thing. There's people now that are actually fighting for pedophilia to be a sexual orientation, for it to be all right to have sex with children. And they think that they have rights to that. People want that to be part of the LGBTQT, whatever all the letters are. People want pedophilia to be a part of that now. And that's crazy to me.
That's crazy.
That we're in a time where you can go out here and say it's okay to be a woman, and not only can other people not say it's not okay to be a woman, but people can get you fired from your job because you don't think it's right for a man to be a woman. And that's where we're going with pedophilia. It's going to be legal to have sex with children, and anybody who's against it can't speak because they'll be fired. Their social media will be shut down. I mean, it's like people get this little fire under them and they fight for stuff, but they're fighting for the wrong things. They're fighting for things that are evil, at the very most evil. And it says in the Bible, do not say right is wrong and wrong is right. That's not word for word the verse, but that's what it says. Do not mistake evil for good and good for evil.
Yeah. Okay, so she said, oh my God, preach it. So with the documentary, how did it come about? Like, how did it all start?
I mean, I want to say that John and Abby contacted my grandmother about it, and she talked to them a while and figured out that they were trying to do something that was going to be good for my brother. My grandma's always been good at judging people's character, always been good at finding out if people have other motives. And my grandma talked to them. She said, I think she actually did a phone call or something with them. She communicated with them for a while and said, yeah, we'll do this, and they asked them what they were hoping to accomplish with it. And they told us, they said they were going to study the case, and they said they were going to find out if they thought my brother was innocent or guilty. So they came into it with no bias. And they said they were going to put the story out there, just like in the documentary. They not only showed things that made people believe my brother was innocent, but they said things about the shorts and about the gun being stolen that, people could look in and say my brother's guilty. So they presented things that let people pick sides. You look at the evidence, you look at the circumstances, and you make your own mind up. So when the documentary came, they came to North Carolina. They talked to me and my grandma. We met them. They went down to Georgia with us, and that's how we had the video and stuff in the truck.
Yeah.
And we stayed in Georgia. They stayed at a hotel. I stayed at my friend's house. And they went to the trial every day. We sat there and talked with them every day. They're very good, down-to-earth people. And talking to them, there's certain people that you see that are like, oh, this person's easily, I hate to use the word clout because a lot of people know what that means. But there's certain people that you can see are very popular. And as soon as they walk into a room, you can tell they get a lot of attention. And these people didn't strike me like that. They just struck me as hardworking journalists. And so when they put the story out there, I did not think that it would catch on to people the way that it did. But there's certain parts of the story, like when I stood up and cussed in the courtroom and when I was walking out of the courtroom, those things, you see a lot of murder cases and stuff on TV, but there's not a bunch of that. You don't see a bunch of the reactions like I reacted.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things I said walking out the courtroom, like I said, y'all seen what y'all seen and y'all heard what y'all heard. I was so heated at the moment, I didn't have clear thoughts. But, I should have said, y'all heard the evidence. Y'all seen the things they did, like lost these murder weapons. These are the things that show my brother is innocent, and the police set out to convict him, and these things were ignored. I felt like the day that they said they had lost these 2 murder weapons, and it was stated that these weapons had blood and hair on them. So they were obviously used to kill them, and I figure once the police lose these murder weapons, that should be the end of the case right there. The police lose the murder weapons, because on the flip side, when the police find a murder weapon, that right there is their whole case. That's their smoking gun. So when they lose the murder weapons, that right there should tell me if the police really felt like my brother was guilty, they would have held on to those murder weapons with every claw they had. Yeah. But they knew he was innocent, and they knew those murder weapons would prove him innocent, so they went out of their way to hide them. There's no telling where they're at now, probably at the bottom of a creek somewhere.
But see,
that's the same as
if Guy had found that and then lost it, it'd have been tampering with evidence, and it'd have been him trying to hide something. But the police can just lose it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's the same with a lot of the evidence from the case, though, isn't it? What would have proven him to be innocent was either not tested or lost, or whereas that should have been the stuff that they would have used more because, hey, look, this is going to prove him to be guilty.
Right.
Yet they never used any of that stuff.
There's a lot of things that they could have, like used common sense on, and if they had tested it, that would have been everything they needed right there. But obviously that wasn't their motive.
And like, I want people to know this. When I went down to that trial, the police kept saying they were going to show for sure that my brother was guilty. I went down there with the thought that if the police have some evidence that proves my brother did this, my brother deserves to burn in hell. If he really killed my dad, he deserves whatever he gets. And when I went to that trial and I sat through that trial every day, I just felt a fire in me, like they're railroading my brother. They're really doing this. And the more stuff, like, I would just look at my grandma and sit there like, this is really happening. Like, I can't believe this is how things like this work. Like, this is nothing to do with evidence and what really happened. This is all about opinions and manipulation. If you can manipulate something, like me and you could look at the same wall and I could tell you that wall is blue and you could tell me that wall is purple. But if you can explain to somebody that wall is blue more than I can explain it's purple, you can manipulate them into believing that. And that's exactly what they did. They took the facts and they manipulated them in the way that made my brother be more guilty than he was innocent. And they came back and they got a conviction. And that blows my mind.
Someone's asked quite a good question, actually, like, which ties in with what you said about, you went in there with an open opinion. Somebody's asked, what makes you think he's innocent, and has it changed your relationship with him?
I mean, in the beginning, what made me think my brother was innocent, because I knew my brother. I'd never seen him be a violent person. He was never quick to anger. I've always said from the beginning, if somebody was going to paint me or my brother to be a murderer, I feel like it'd be much easier to paint me to be a murderer. I have a temper. I'm quick to fight about things that really piss me off. And my brother is nothing like that. And then when I seen the way that they took the things that made my brother innocent and they just disregarded them, they didn't present anything in a way that would leave people to make their own decisions. I feel like in a court case, you should leave stuff to where people can decide with the knowledge they have. But there was nothing like that. This was, you have to believe it this way because this is the way we're telling you to believe it. And even in the final closing arguments, they say, if you believe he's guilty, convict him. If he's innocent, let him go. They said if you believe he committed these crimes or had something to do with it, you need to choose guilty.
So they're saying if you believe he's or had something to do with it, yet they were so certain that he was the only person that did it. Yet in their closing argument, they're saying or had something to do with it. Yet he was apparently the only one. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just change things, don't they, to suit themselves. Definitely change it.
It's just like the juror at the end said there was not one thing that told me like this for sure was him. Like, there's nothing you can't dispute it. He said there's not one thing that made him think he was for sure guilty. So how did you turn around and say guilty? Like, how can you say that and then turn around and be like, yep, guilty? When you out of your own mouth said there was not one thing that made me think he was guilty.
And honestly, people might disagree with this, but I was just telling Brianna this at the house earlier. It would be better to let a guilty man walk free because you're not sure than to convict an innocent man because you're not sure.
I mean, I just wonder how they live with themselves. Like, they have to have thought about it more, looked into it more, see, like, how we're still 11 years later fighting for it. They have to just feel horrible and be like, we convicted an innocent man. They have to. There's no way that they don't.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That note too, though, like, I'm not trying to preach about things or to people, but God has showed me a lot of things and opened my eyes to a lot of things in my life. And when I walked down on them court steps, I told Matt During, I said, hell's a hot place.
Yeah.
And when you get there, you're going to burn. And you know what? That's one thing I can say to my last day. I was right. I stood on those courthouse steps and I was right. That man died from cancer and he is burning in hell right now.
Yeah.
And that's just like Mike Owens. Mike Owens got on the stand and he was very shifty the whole time. So it made me feel like he already knew he was doing wrong. But the day after Mike Owens testified, we were sitting in the truck. I'll never forget. My grandma was talking to Pastor Black on the phone. And I said, Grandma, look. I looked over his truck. He was sitting outside of a Ford F-250, jacked up truck. This dude is like 300 pounds, maybe 280, and he's crying. He's bawling his eyes out. And one of the police detectives, I believe it was Captain Marissa Tyndale, was sitting there patting him on the shoulder, and you could hear her saying, "It's going to be all right, Mike. It's going to be all right, Mike." And I said,
Wow.
Grandma, what reason would this grown man be sitting out here crying in his truck? And the answer in my mind is because he knew what he did. He
Knew
knew
he'd
he just
done
got
wrong.
on the stand and cost the man his life. And you
Yeah.
know what? Rest in peace, Mike Owens. I'm not going to speak bad on him because from the last years of his Facebook post, I could tell the Glenn County Police Department had really wronged him. He even said in
Yeah.
one post, all the brothers that I swore my life to stabbed me in the back and turned their backs on me. So he was mad at the Glenn County Police Department when he died, but he also died a painful death from everything that I've heard. And more than likely, he's burning in hell today, too.
How's it changed your relationship with Guy? That was the second part of that question.
I feel like I have so much more respect now for my brother, you know? I mean, growing up, I was always the antagonistic child. I was spoiled. I always got my way. I was my mama's baby, you know? I used to take candy bars, them packs of candy bars you buy from Dollar General that come with like 8 candy bars in it. And I would open the pack up and I would stand at the door and just chunk them at him, throw him and hit him as hard as I could with the candy bars. And he would run after me. And right before he'd get his hands on me, I'd yell, Mama, Mama, he's hitting me. He's hitting me. And my mama would run in there and whip his tail. And when I was little, I was probably like 3 or 4. We had bunk beds, and my brother pushed me off the top bunk bed, and I was in the floor crying. And my mama walked in there with the broom. She didn't ask no questions. She looked at Guy, looked at me on the floor crying, and whacked him over the head with the broom. Broke the broom right over his head because he hurt mama's baby. And just seeing my brother come up, you know, before the last few years, me and my brother were around each other. We were doing drugs together, you know. I was doing pills, smoking crack, doing a lot of the same stuff my brother was doing. And
Yeah.
so our relationship was really based off of drugs and money. When you're in that lifestyle, everyone around you is, can I get money from them? Can they get me high today? That's the kind of things that you look at. And that was our relationship, me and my brother. So there was no saving money, trying to buy a house, trying to get a good career. There was none of that adult stuff we were doing. We were doing childish things. But seeing my brother be locked up and his whole life being taken from him, he's already survived in prison way longer than I thought he would. I thought he would have been killed a long time ago. The day that he was convicted, as soon as he called me, the first thing I said on the phone is, please don't kill yourself, guy. Please don't kill yourself. Because I thought he was going to commit suicide after he got convicted. And my brother has never spoke about anything like that. My brother's always kept a good head.
He told me that, yeah. That's
He's
exactly what he
always
said
like,
to me.
He's a rock. I mean, in his own right, he is. We always say my grandma's the rock of the family because my grandma is. My grandma has went through a lot of stuff for a woman her age, and to still have the composure that she has, to still be able to carry herself the way that she does, I have nothing but respect for my grandma. And my brother is getting right up there with her in my mind with that because my brother has carried himself very well through all of this.
Yeah.
And so I still feel like my brother is in there because he hasn't turned into the man God wants him to be yet. But even now, he's talking more about when I get out, I want to help people. I want to use my story to help others. And I think that's what God wants from him. God don't put you in prison for 20 years and then let you out of jail to go back building houses. No, you're supposed to go in there. You're supposed to come out and use your story for the greater good. And the greater good is spreading God's message. And God's message is love. God's message is having compassion for others. And even though you sin and you fall, that's why Jesus died on the cross, so we can be forgiven for our sins. That's why I am who I am today, because all the things I did, the robbing, the stealing, the drugs, God has forgiven me from that. And God forgives everyone who comes to him and asks for forgiveness. And who better to tell somebody that than my brother? Who better would people listen to than the man who was convicted of 8 murders, came through that on the other side, and came out a stronger man? My brother could be something great with that. He just has to put his energy in the right place.
Okay, there's another question that's come up saying, did Guy make a passing statement or something that might have been misconstrued by the law enforcement that you know of?
What do you mean by a passing statement?
I think they mean like when they arrived, maybe, when they arrived at the trailer for them to take him in.
No, I think the thing he did when they arrived at the trailer, when they got there, he was smoking a joint. on the porch, and they automatically assume, oh, this man's doing drugs right after he found his family dead. And they took that completely the wrong way. And just like Brianna said, I would have been too. If I would have just found everybody dead, I would have reached for the bottle or the first thing I could find to ease that thought in my mind of what I just walked in and seen.
Who can imagine? Like, nobody can imagine what that really must have been like. You just found your entire family, your father, and the rest of your family like beat to death, like blood everywhere. It's not just like you see somebody laying in a coffin, no blood or nothing. This was a gory scene, and he just found everybody like that. I cannot imagine.
And if you look at the statistics and the people in the world, a lot of people have seen murders. A lot of people have been involved in robberies, car crashes, have gotten cancer. I bet there's a very small percentage of people walking this earth who have walked in and found their whole family beaten to death.
Oh, yeah.
Very few people walking this earth can say that they've witnessed that. And even less people can say that right after they witnessed that, they were locked up for it, didn't get to go to their family's funeral, and is fighting for their life still today.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Brianna, what were your thoughts the first time you saw the documentary? Because obviously you wasn't with Tyler the first time you saw it, was you? You and Tyler went together.
No. I saw there was like a 30-minute clip of it on YouTube. I actually, like a friend had showed it to me, and it was a mutual friend. They was showing me
her ex-boyfriend was one of my friends. You don't want to say that, but
anyway, he showed me, he said, this is my friend Tyler, like this is his family, this is his brother, and like showed it to me, and so we watched that, and I remember, thinking like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Like, obviously I believe that he was innocent, but I had, as bad as it sounds, I'd kind of forgotten about it. And then when Tyler and I started dating, like he started talking to me about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember now. Like I felt so bad that I had kind of forgotten. And then I started looking into it more, and then like obviously it's a completely different thing when it's somebody you care about. Like I just see Tyler in it, and like I'm like, my baby, like, oh my god, like I just want to be there and hug him and everything. But it just infuriates me because I know the family. I know, like I talk to Guy, or I hear from Guy like often, and like we now have Tyler and I now have a child together, so that's his niece, and I just think about that's my baby's family, like that's her grandfather, and all of her family is gone, and now her uncle, like one of the few family members she has left, can't even meet her, like like we were watching it today, and I cried, I was angry, I'm in there like talking to myself, I'm like, this is just ridiculous, and like every time I see it, or every time I get to talking about it, it just burns me up. People, all these comments that we see, or like we deal with, like people say that we're emotional. Well, of course we're emotional. We love these guys, so it just hits me like way deeper than people probably understand. Like as much as it hits anybody else who watches it, this is my family, so it kills me to see it, and the fact that people can still see that and think that he's guilty, it just makes me sick to my stomach. Like,
was there like any one thing on the documentary that made you like, what was it about the documentary that made you believe Guy was innocent?
But honestly, like the first time I ever heard the 911 call, just the sheer like panic in his voice, and I could just tell like he was serious, that he was genuinely shocked and hurting, and like that, like that's all I had to hear at first, and then just everything in the trial after that, and honestly, like there was questions I had, once Tyler and I were together and we watched it together, I was like, yeah, well, answer this for me, answer that for me. So like, luckily I had the inside,
Yeah.
So, a lot of people who watch it don't have that. So that, because there was questions, I was like, okay, I believe in God, I trust in God, but what about that? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's like a part of it that I wish was shown on there is like when the man from Barrington is questioned by the defence, and actually it turns out that he went to bed at 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, I wish they'd shown that on the documentary, because like his alibi was such a big thing that had a lot of more people have seen it, then some of those that maybe didn't believe him from watching the documentary might have then believed in him sooner, or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I was like, that was such a big thing, the alibi, wasn't it, for some people? But then saying that, the jury heard about that, and then
right. See, a lot of people think that, like, I'll start talking to people about the case, and they assume that because Tyler and I are together, that's why I believe that God's innocent. But it's not. Like, I had believed it before I ever even knew Tyler or liked Tyler. But also, if I have children, like, and we have a child together, but like, if I genuinely believed that God was guilty, I would just agree to disagree, but I wouldn't want him around my kids. I wouldn't like, a lot of people were like, oh no, like, like, I'm like, just trust me. Like, I'm telling you, I would never have somebody around my kids that I couldn't trust.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I believe it in my heart. I feel it. I mean, when we first sent him pictures of Hazel when she was born, like, he cried, like, he's a big softie. And like, I send him pictures now, and he just gets so excited over them. And that's not a cold-blooded murder for you.
No.
It's just not.
Right.
I think going back to the alibi too, though, like, me and Guy were just joking on the phone. He called me before I came over here, and he was talking about, well, you better make sure you got a good alibi wherever you go, every hour of the day. You better know what's going on, make sure somebody can account for your story. And he was making a joke about it, but that's so true. This whole thing would have went totally different had my brother just been somewhere at a bar where there was a video camera, or been somewhere where somebody could say, hey, Guy was here, he wasn't out killing his family. So once the police realize you can't account for where you were at or have nobody back your story up, then all they have to do after that is just fish a few of the facts to make it look like, oh, he could have done this, and then you're done. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Anybody can pick 5 hours out of their day that probably nobody can account for them, especially if you work somewhere where you're in the field, like where I work. Me and the guy I work with, sometimes we're out for hours and hours in the woods cutting trees, and nobody can say, oh, Tyler was here doing this. So somebody can say, well, Tyler just went and committed a murder in Winston-Salem while he was at work, said he was at work, but he was here committing a murder. And it's like, it's so crazy that your freedom can be taken off of something so small. Just one window of time that you don't have nobody to say, hey, he was here, and your freedom's gone just like that.
Substantial.
Yeah, it's like where people say, like, well, why doesn't he know what time he was here or here or here? Well, because he didn't know he had to know what time he went to these places, or do you know what I mean? He didn't know he had.
And he was high.
Yeah, but it's like, who goes around, even if you're not high, who spends their day knowing, like, I can't tell you what time today I had my lunch. I can't remember. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't say to you I had it exactly this time because I didn't know I was going to bring that up on this podcast. So do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. you don't sit there document it every second of your day, like, no matter what you're doing. So that's why he doesn't know the times, and he didn't wear a watch or have a phone. So, like, he wasn't checking the time either, like, but yeah.
And like things like that too, like, I feel like my brother got convicted because the police wanted a conviction and they did the things they had to do to get a conviction. But I also believe that it was the hand of God that my brother got convicted. And that's why I believe whatever he does when he comes out will be something very big and will touch a lot of people, because the way that things fell into place, like, had my brother had a cell phone on him that they could have checked the towers to see where he was at, or had he had something to say that, hey, this is that proof that I was here, then none of this would have happened. But this has all obviously happened for a reason. That's why it's taken so long to even get to the point it's at right now. And I feel like right now we're bubbling. I just got this feeling, like, the page, everybody working, Daniel, people around the world saying, we'll help you, the petition. Like, we're on the brink of something.
Yeah,
we're on the brink of something that'll break through. And that's why what my brother's lawyer did is such an egregious thing is because now they just passed in February of 2020 the cumulative review that used to, when you wanted to get a trial overturned, you had to take your most important thing that you said was wrong and you had to fight that one point. But now you're allowed to actually take all of your points that show why you were wrong and why you shouldn't have been convicted. And the judges will actually consider all of this when they consider giving you a new trial. And my brother's attorney has done the exact opposite of that. He went the old way, picked one point, and presented it. And this is my brother's Supreme Court appeal. So this appeal right here is like make or break. Like if you're going to bring all your guns to a fight, this is the fight you're supposed to bring your guns to. And we did not do that. This guy has not talked to us.
So had Daniel working on it for what, 3 months now or something?
Twice. And that's why it was so important for this guy to write my brother back or talk to my brother, because we've already talked about this. And I said this 5 months ago, I said, if this guy seems like he's bullshitting, if he seems like he's not going to help you guy, he's not going to put all this stuff out there, then what we're going to do is fire him, and we're going to try to raise money to get you a new appeal attorney. Because to get somebody to represent you in a murder trial of this magnitude, it'd be like $1.52 million.
Yeah.
To just get somebody to draft the appeal and file the appeal, we could probably get that done for $30,000 to $50,000, which is a lot of money. But I know on my own that with the people I got, I could come up with $8,000 on my own. And raising money and getting people to help all around the world, we could come up with $40,000 or $50,000.
Yeah,
we could do it. And that's the steps we would have took. Had we known that this guy was going to sit here, put this one point out here, and be done with God, never talk to him again, then we would have took a different route. We wouldn't have hoped and prayed that what he was doing was going to work. No, that's stupid. God gives you free will to make your own decisions. And in our free will, we would have made the decision to fire this lazy dude and try to find somebody who would actually fight, who would actually put everything out there that we have. And if anybody's got a case of why they shouldn't have been convicted, it's my brother. From the lost murder weapons, from the police actually sitting there. The guy said on the stand, or the prosecutor said, when you find your car keys, you don't look for your car keys no more. If that right there doesn't say, we believe this man was guilty, so we're going to convict him no matter what, then what says it? And Knox said in the documentary, he said, there's actually a technical term for what it is that he was talking about. But he said, when you have an opinion about how something happened, you tend to try to find things that make your opinion true and ignore the things that make your opinion false.
Yeah. And that's what they did, isn't it? What do you think? Yeah, go on, carry on. No, go on, carry on.
I was going to say, though, in any instance in life, you could do that. You could take a situation and you can twist the facts and make people believe what you're saying is the truth, when in your heart, you know it's not the truth. So these guys like John Johnson, who's been prosecuting cases for 30 years, he's got the knowledge and tools of manipulation to do that. He's probably one of the best probably the best I've ever met at manipulating the facts. So I'm sure the more cases he tries, the more people that he feels like he wants to convict. It don't take much for that man to wake up in the morning and cost somebody their life. He could wake up tomorrow and cost somebody else their life at the drop of a hat, and it won't make a damn to him. He even said, I don't keep up with my wins and my losses, but I never lost a death penalty trial.
What is it? Depends on how good you are.
Yeah. What do you think the documentary put across really well?
I think the documentary put across really well, as far as me and my grandma, especially, the emotion that we had invested in it, and the fact that we weren't just out here trying to get a guilty man freed because he was a blood family member. No, we believe this man is innocent, and we see what the justice system is doing to convict this man, and we don't believe it's right. You know, my grandma even admitted she used to always think the police were right. When they said somebody was guilty, they must be guilty. And through these things, we've learned this lesson the hard way, you know, and now with all the police killing people around the world, so many more people are opening their eyes to see that, dang, the police are really out here not protecting and serving. They're out here shooting people. They're out here convicting people with no evidence. And it's like people are astounded by this, because people always just think, well, you can call the police. They'll help you. They'll save you. No, that's not always the case. I'm sorry to say. Sometimes you call the police and your bad day turns into a really bad day.
Yeah, and I think like somebody commented on the group before as well, like, you know, after this, they'd be scared to call 911. If, you know, if they ever came across something, they would be scared to be the ones that actually called 911 for help, because, you know, like how easily they can pin something on you.
Yeah.
And Crystal last week said, yeah, go on, Brianna.
I was gonna say also, I think a lot of people don't realize how many other leads that like they could have had. Like people were telling them, you know, like giving them advice, like, you know, dropping things here and there, like this person said this or this person said that. Like it's not like it was just Guy and there was no other trails any other way. Like they did not look into anything except for Guy. Like there was other, you know, stories or whatever that they just ignored.
Yep. Yeah, there was like 70 lead sheets, I think.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot.
And it also came out in the trial too, though, that the police, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, which is like Georgia's state level FBI, you know, the biggest investigation team in Georgia, offered to help. Yeah. And the Glenn County Police Department told them, no, we got this. We can handle this. And the Glenn County Police Department has never handled a case of this magnitude. Never.
And we see why.
And the fact that they said they didn't need help should raise some questions right there. If you're wanting to get the truth in any situation, the best thing to do is have as many brains on it as possible. If I'm doing something and I'm not really sure about how I'm doing it, I'm going to ask the top 10 people I know that know about that situation before I go and do it. And the police did the exact opposite of that. They already knew in their mind, we're about to do some shady stuff. We're about to do some stuff that a lot of people won't approve of. So it's best if our only little group of friends right here know about it.
Yeah.
I honestly think that they, you know, like I told Tyler this earlier, and it may have hurt his feelings a little bit, but I honestly think they got there, they saw, you know, Guy on drugs, they see all these people in this small trailer piled up on top of each other.
That's trashy, dirty.
Like all, you know, some people on drugs and stuff, and they just thought, who cares about these people? You know, like good riddance, you know, and they just were like, who cares about real justice? Let's just get all these people, you know, out of the way. And I just think they really just didn't care. And then they thought that, you know, quote unquote, solving this case was going to make them look good.
Yeah.
They like, look, you know, we could do this all like this quickly and just, you know, we know what we're doing. But I mean, they just didn't care because of the class of people that it had been murdered.
Yeah.
And like now that like all the facts about Glenn County have came out, people have to look at it too. Not only is this happening with my brother when this happens, but you got Caroline Small, who was just shot not very long after that. You got Robert Sasser that's out here shooting people that the police department already know is crazy. So you have all these cases where things have been done wrong and they have successfully covered it up. So in their minds, they're like, well, we can probably cover this one up too. You know, they have a whole group of people. The guy, George McMichael, that shot Ahmaud Arbery, he was down there practicing law without even legally being a law enforcement officer. So if you're doing shit like that, it's not a hard stretch to think, well, we'll just find somebody that we want to be guilty and convict this man. They have a whole culture of convicting people with no evidence, of convicting people that they know are innocent, just like the original judge on his case. Amanda Johnson got thrown off the bench because her son was a lawyer and she was presiding over his cases. And if people don't understand that, that's like your mom is the one who's going to decide whether you win or lose. And you get to legally go to court and act like you're putting on a fair trial, but your mom's deciding if you win or lose. Is your mom ever going to make you lose? No. Mom's going to make sure I win every time.
It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
And they just knew that Guy, like, he didn't have almost any family left at that point, and he was just...
Who's going to fight for him?
Yeah, they didn't think there would be a fight. I mean, here we are 11 years later, and we got a big family. Like, we got all of us fighting behind them. Like, you know, I bet you they regret that shit. They will if they don't.
They're now going, oh, what have we done? What have we started?
Yeah.
Look at them all now. Yeah. What was your opinion, Tyler, on Guy's attorneys?
Well, honestly, I didn't have all the facts because now it came out that Newell was already disbarred for being an alcoholic. These people, they really presented it to me and my grandma like they were honest people and they were really fighting for my brother. But even my grandma said in the beginning, they told us that their biggest case was showing that the police didn't do their job. And my grandma even said there are other things that show that guy's innocent. You shouldn't focus on this. And they focused on this. When Guy went to trial, they had a copy of that rap CD that we released where these
Yeah.
people are bragging about killing my family. And any logical person would have brought that up and let the jury hear that because that right there casts reasonable doubt.
Mhm.
So there were so many things that they did that showed that they didn't put their full effort into it. And then after all this happened, the guy even said, well, our main goal was just making sure he didn't get the death penalty.
Yeah.
So it wasn't sending Guy home a free man. It was all we won because he didn't get the death penalty.
I mean, I don't understand how we, as like 3-4 of us, can go over all the quote unquote evidence they had and disassemble it and explain it and say no, that didn't happen. But his lawyers couldn't spend however many days it was in trial saying, okay, well, the blood was because of this.
Mm-hmm.
The gun was because of this. Like, how could they not
make people see it for what it actually really was?
Right. If we could do that on an hour podcast, explain all the things away, how could they not do it in a trial? Like, I just don't understand how they didn't pull up every single, no stone should have been unturned. They should have been giving out, information that the jury didn't even need, telling them everything. Why were you not just telling them so much more than you did? I mean, and I wasn't there, obviously, but obviously they didn't do something. It just pisses me off to see them in the documentary. They're all sitting there while the jurors are deliberating, and they're just laughing and that makes me so mad. You think you did so well? Yeah, you did it. Makes me mad.
Yeah. What about so for you then, Brianna? When you watch it, what are your thoughts on what the jury comment on from the documentary? I'll let you talk, and then we'll let Tyler, because you've got a lot to say on that one.
Yeah,
you jump in first.
They clearly had an idea in their head when they went in, and it's like that one guy said that he showed no remorse. He was told, remorse for what exactly? If you were supposed to be presuming him innocent, what were you looking for remorse for? Obviously. And then he just, he's told he didn't, feel anything. Well, he had been sitting in jail for 4 years at that point already?
Yeah, 4.5 on his own.
He didn't get to grieve his family like he wanted to, and they're I wish he would have looked up and looked at the pictures. Why would he want to look at the pictures of his beaten to death family? What is wrong with you? And then the girls are I don't know, I just don't know anything. And how are these idiots the people who get to decide whether a man lives or dies?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just insane to me. And the girls flat out sit there and say we were getting emotionally exhausted, we were just, everybody was fighting, we were crying, and that they I'm pretty sure that those two girls and the juror that was
152, yeah,
I'm pretty sure they were the three that were saying that he was innocent, and they got bullied. Those girls got bullied and bullied and bullied until
as soon as 152 left, they had no one to stand up for them.
Yeah. And so you could just tell by the way they were the fact that they were interviewed together tells you that they can't stand up for something on their own. I feel like they were I'll be interviewed if you'll be interviewed. We'll do it together. They were sticking together, but then they just got bullied.
Yeah. It's like schoolgirls, isn't it? Well, if you do it, then I'll do it. Oh, all right then.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I bet you they were finally just okay, fine, we'll just say he's innocent, because they wanted to go home and they were just tired of I can imagine, in their defense, I can imagine how emotionally and exhausting that was to sit there and be we really have to decide this man's life. And they looked so young and just inexperienced in life in general. And so I'm sure it was super exhausting. I can imagine the tears and the frustration. So they just gave in my opinion.
Yeah.
And on that same note, though, about it being exhausting and being pressured into feeling a certain way, the juror that they took off, juror number 153, that was this girl that I used to know's dad. He worked for Homeland Security, a high government agency, for 20 years. He told his wife, I cannot convict this man with the evidence they have against me. Or have against him. So if you can picture sitting in that jury room, especially with that old man who said he didn't have no remorse, he said in the documentary, well, I lived a bunch of life. I worked here and I did this. Well, that guy, juror 153, he was sitting in the room telling them, I've worked for the government for 20 years. I've seen corruption. I've seen how this stuff works. And the stuff they're presenting, they're doing this boy wrong. And the people that didn't have much life experience, like those girls, they're looking at all the older adults, trying to figure out who to believe.
Yeah.
And juror number 153 was probably pretty convincing in telling people, hey, this guy's innocent. I can tell you why he's innocent. I can tell you what they're doing to him. So when the prosecution realized, well, we got a guy in the jury room that's got police experience, not just local police experience, government police experience, Homeland Security, dealing with very deep crimes, very in-depth things. This guy's a smart guy on many levels. And so he was the best person to tell everybody, hey, this is pretty obvious something ain't right here. This is pretty obvious we shouldn't convict this man. And that's why they made such a big deal about getting him thrown off the jury.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you believe like he's guilty. If you can look at any of the points that we've made and go, then you shouldn't.
That's reasonable doubt. Yeah.
That's reasonable doubt.
Right there,
Then you find him not guilty.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I see that one point, but, you still, you've questioned it, so you'd have to go not guilty.
And that's just like the Rhapsody. That would have been so much reasonable doubt. Like, people hearing it now, could you just imagine that being played in the courtroom? They play part of the 911 call, and these guys start rapping, and they say 3 niggas all black kicked the door in. First nigga I seen, I split his wig. We came for the money or the dope. And that's a visual image of exactly what happened. They kicked the door in. First nigga I seen, I split his wig. Split his wig means cracked his skull in half. And my dad was laying right there, and they cracked his skull in half. They did word for word what they said.
What was their reason for not putting it into evidence?
They said that it didn't fit in with what they were trying to do. They were just trying to show that the police didn't do their job. So they weren't trying to paint a full picture of everything that shows guys innocent. They had one goal, to show the police didn't do their job, and they figured that would be enough for my brother to be found not guilty.
I mean, and that goes with the leads. Like, just no leads were followed up on.
Yeah.
And that goes with the pair of nunchucks, too. They said it was 2 steel pipes with weights in them with an S-hook connecting both of them. So it's obviously a pair of nunchucks because the 2 pipes are being swung by the S-hook. And they said there was blood and hair on them. Just like the hammer, there was blood and hair. So if I'm a lawyer, I'm going to be sitting there bringing that up every chance I get. I'm going to go back to that 30 times during that trial. Well, there's blood and hair on 2 pieces of weapons that we don't have here today to show you guys. How does one man swing 2 pieces of weapons? He's not Jet Li. He's not swinging a hammer and nunchucks.
Also with the barrel. Like, so he had 3 different weapons. Okay, so what he did was just changing them out the whole time. And everybody just stood there and let him do it too, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? It's insane.
And that's like the handprints around Junior's ankles where somebody was holding him. And that's just like the pillow over her head in Brenda's room.
Yeah.
2 of those instances take at least 4 hands to do everything that's going on right there.
Yeah, one guy took 5 people at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely 4 to 5, isn't it? At least.
And there was not a big enough deal made about the luminol in the car, too. They luminoled the car. People who watch detective shows knows what luminol is. You spray it somewhere, and it turns violet color when there's a presence of blood there. No matter how much you've washed it, luminol will show blood under multiple layers. So they sprayed this car that this man supposedly got in after he just beat 8 people to death, and there's not a drop of blood in there.
He would have been drenched.
Not even a drop of blood in there. I would have brought that up so many times. So can you explain to me how this man just kills his family and doesn't wash off at this trailer? Leaves to go wash off somewhere else, and there's not a drop of blood in that car?
I mean, also, the shorts, the blood on the shorts, the neighbor testified, both neighbors testified that when he pulled up, there was no blood on him. So obviously the blood got on him while he was at the crime scene, calling 911, checking on people, trying to keep Michael alive. Michael was alive, and he's hollering. You can hear him in the 911 call hollering, saying, "Hurry up, Michael's alive."
Yeah.
Man, if he's in the trailer by himself, quote unquote checking on these people, and he sees that someone's alive, all he's got to do is suffocate them real quick, or something, right?
Yeah, there was.
Or or just leave them be or something. But no, you're like, hurry up, somebody's alive. That sounds like a killer. That's smart.
You see how Brianna said suffocate him? Obviously, Brianna's a killer. I could give you a couple instances right now to make the world believe that Brianna's a cold-blooded murderer walking the street.
There's been a couple times I could have killed Tyler, but
you see how quick she just said suffocate him. You could just suffocate him.
Well, I was going to do anything loud.
Oh dear. Right. Are you ready for me to get somebody to call in? That because we've got 3 people now that want to call in and ask some questions to you both. So, are you happy for me to get the first person to call in?
Go ahead.
Okay, Crystal, do you want to call in? You do that. Crystal, do you want to call in first?
Okay.
It's very quiet there, Brianna.
Oh, we're at my aunt's house so she can help with the kids in the other room.
Okay.
I have the baby in here, but she's good. So
she just went. So I went. It's very quiet there, Brianna.
Go in there. No. Come on, go in there.
Okay, Crystal. Let's check we can hear you.
Oh, hello. Sorry, my ear things keep coming out, and I don't know why. But I'm trying to put them in real fast. Oh, Lord, and it keeps falling out. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep, can hear you.
I can hear.
Okay. Sorry. Well, first off, Tyler, you're like an awesome brother.
Is Tyler back from getting a drink?
Is that a question?
No, like you know, is that a question or yes, Tyler, are you a good brother or not? No, but you are, and you have a great girl. So I just want to put that out there. And Jody is awesome as well. First, y'all might have already answered these, but I just figured I'd ask anyway. Tyler, were you living at New Hope at the time as well, and you just weren't there that night?
I was living with my friends, but me and my friend Travis used to stay over there on the weekends a lot. We'd go out and party, and we'd come crash there. You know, so I stayed there a bunch with my family, but I never officially lived there, no.
Okay, and was that guy's like permanent residence, or he was just kind of there on the weekends, or like?
No, guy lived there. It was his permanent residence.
Okay, all right. I'm just asking questions because I know on the group a lot of people ask the same questions over and over, so I just figured I would do the same.
Tyler, sorry, just on that guy living there. Tyler, wasn't your dad and Guy, weren't they supposed to go and pay money on that Saturday for a trailer that they were moving into, weren't they, on that Saturday?
I don't know. I've heard that multiple times.
I've seen it on his written timeline.
My dad, he didn't have a job at the time. He had lost his job because what had happened. That's why my dad was going to win the $25,000, because when I moved back from North Carolina, my grandma sent a check for $10,000 of my money that she had saved, and my dad took $4,000 of that and bought a trailer that he owned outright, and we had it on a piece of land in Darien. And my dad lost his job, and he wasn't paying the lot rent. You know, if you have a trailer on a piece of land, you still have to rent the land that it's on. Yeah. And he wasn't paying the lot rent. So the guy moved somebody into the trailer that my dad owned and was charging him rent. So my dad found out about it and sued him for $50,000, and he won a favorable judgment of $25,000. But that judgment was on appeal because the guy appealed it.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people think that he had the money.
And
he didn't.
Yeah, and me and my brother were the first people that knew that. A lot of people tried to say, "Oh, well, he thought his dad had this money." No, me and my brother were the first people to know he didn't have the money.
I mean, and Guy and Tyler were on the phone the other day, like just talking and playing around. They were talking about how their dad used to just give out money all the time because he liked to show off his money, you know. But he would just give them money. So if he had money, they wouldn't have had to beat him up or take it from him. Like, he would have looked out for them for sure, you know.
Yes, and my dad was like that, you know. People call it flexing, You know, I used to do stuff like that sometimes. You know, you want to show, hey, I got money right now. You know, so you'll throw somebody a 50, throw them 100. You might not really have it like that, but you do that just to make people believe that you're doing better than you really are. And my dad was like that. When he got a check, he got a $1,500 check. He come to the house, give everybody a 20, give me and my brother 100, take you out to eat. He spend money real fast, you know, just to let people believe he was living better than he was really living. But my dad was not the type to pinch pennies. He was not gonna. He would have got $25,000, and between us all, we probably would have blew it in 3 weeks. But the thing about it is, we wouldn't have had to kill my dad to get some money.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Did whenever the crime happened and they pulled Guy into for questioning, did they pull you as well? Being that you know you met your brother that night and he gave you some money. And why didn't they ask you to, or did they ask you to stand on the stand during court for your brother? Like to testify stating you saw your brother that night, you know, you met your brother at this time, your brother gave you money, you know, he just got his check, that kind of thing.
They did question me the same time they were questioning my brother. I was in a different room with my stepdad because I was a minor at the time, and they were questioning me. And there was also an issue made about that because they were trying to talk to me without my stepdad, but that was against the law, so they had to let him in there. And B, they didn't want me or my brother to get on the stand. Back to when they asked the question, when Jody asked the question about his defense and how he felt about that, that was a big mistake. They said that they felt like the prosecution would be able to twist our words and be able to make us angry on the stand and people would get the wrong idea. And that right there, I feel like is one of the biggest things that hurt my brother. Nobody heard him testify.
Yeah.
Nobody heard his voice. The jurors didn't get to see anything about how Guy Hines is. And that's always a mistake. Any famous murder trial you see, the murderer gets on the stand, whether he's guilty or not. The man gets on the stand to speak for himself.
And that right there was like,
Yeah.
that was our inspiration for this page right there was, you know, that's why we came up with the name Guy's Voice, because no one's heard Guy's voice. No one had got to hear his story, his side. So that's why, you know, that's where we came up with this, like being, you know, a page where Guy like regularly talked and, you know, people could hear from him, because a lot of people said like he was cold-hearted and things like that. I don't think they realized that he was told not to testify, that he would have got up there and spoke if he could have.
But
you know?
but Tyler was an alibi, you know, he could have helped. I feel like he could have helped. Like, you know, I saw my brother was here and my brother went to the store afterward. There's no way possible my brother could do this, you know. They didn't want to do it because, you know, the cops wanted to be right and the cops had their person and they could care less about anything else.
Well, I think, I really couldn't have helped as far as where my brother was at during the times they said the murders happened. But where I could have helped with that is, and why I know my brother's telling the truth, is because my brother was out smoking crack. And I could stand here today and say, I've smoked crack with my brother. I smoked crack by myself. When you're smoking crack, you don't go out in public and let everybody know, hey, I'm smoking crack.
No.
You go find somewhere private, somewhere secluded, and you sit there and you smoke your crack until it's all gone. And I've seen my brother do that. I know what he was doing. He was out there at the river chilling where he knew nobody was going to bother him, and he was smoking his crack. And people find that so hard to believe that he can't be accounted for at that time. But that's what you do when you do drugs, whether crack, heroin, anything.
Exactly.
You go hide in a hole somewhere where nobody's going to find you, and you do your drugs. You don't go out and say, hey, I got crack. You want to smoke some?
But it's just like that guy saying at the park that he didn't see Guy out there. Well, no, he wasn't out in the open doing drugs. He was he tucked away somewhere. Of course, you didn't see him doing it.
Absolutely.
Come on now.
I think the defense did say something too, though, about me and my brother testifying that we could be discredited. They could say, well, these guys were doing drugs. They lived their lifestyle this way. You can't believe what they're saying.
Wow. And last question. I know Guy says whenever he was on just a minute ago that his lawyer only pointed out one thing, which there's like a million things that they did wrong. Can y'all mention like the one thing that he put out, or can it not be mentioned until after the courts see it, or does anybody know?
What are you talking about in the appeal he just
in the appeal. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
reason,
They was
the
just brought
error.
up about the juror, about the removal of the juror, and that they violated the juror's constitutional rights by not letting the juror make a decision. Because once a juror is selected, they can only be removed under very exigent circumstances, like death of a family member, something very serious. And nothing serious enough happened for this juror to be removed. The only thing serious that happened is this man said he wasn't going to convict my brother.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had to ask.
You.
Thank you for calling in.
Sorry.
Thank you for listening and supporting us.
Thank y'all. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. But I don't. How do you hang up?
I'll do it for you. I've done it. She's gone. Sabra, do you want to call in next if you're still there? There we go. She's calling in. I think she's got quite a few questions for you as well, Tyler. So,
I got all my answers in my pocket.
Oh, answers in your pocket.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Yes,
Okay. So she did ask some of the questions that I was going to ask. I've been going back and forth about a few things. I do believe Guy is innocent. I've been following this case, and I will continue to follow this case. If there's anything I can do to help y'all, let me know. My first question is, when the 911 call was being made, Guy said that he had to get off the phone and call Tyler to let him know that his father was killed. When was it that Guy was able to call you, Tyler, to let you know?
right after that. I got the call while my brother was still standing there with the police, so probably within 30 minutes, 20 minutes of my brother finding them bodies, I was notified, and I dropped what I was doing. I called my stepdad. I got to get a ride. I got to go over here. Something's happened.
Okay. Yes, I understand that. Also, did Guy's lawyers present anything other than what showed in the documentary? I seen so many boxes that his attorneys took in. So my question is, did they take anything out of them boxes that they had? I know what you said, that they didn't take the CD. I'm sure they had that. Was there anything else that the documentary did not show that they had, that they presented?
I don't remember them presenting anything. All I remember is them just saying the police didn't do this. They were talking about the gun, and the gun was registered to the people in the house. And Newell talked something about the gun was registered to someone in the house, but my brother thought it was the other gun that was in the house. So the only thing that they pulled out, I remember, was the pictures. They had the pictures of everybody being murdered. They had the number of wounds that everybody had on there. The autopsy, describing how the people were killed. But as far as the defense bringing out anything new or trying to put anything new on the table, I don't recall them doing any of that. I don't recall them trying to explain the shorts and say why the blood was here or why these shorts ended up like this. They didn't do any of that. Their goal was just to say that, well, the police didn't do their job, so you shouldn't convict Guy because the police didn't do their job.
Which was absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion.
It seems like they weren't trying to prove Guy's innocence. They were trying to prove the
police guilty.
Yeah.
Exactly. I seen that myself. And Tyler, this may be for Guy. It may be something that you can answer. I'm just going to put a star by my question if it's something you can answer. Did Guy have any say-so when the juror got kicked off?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, they came to him and they asked him, they said, if you'll let us remove this juror, then we'll take the death penalty off the table. And they presented it that way so that my brother would definitely say yes to that. But you have to keep in mind, Guy did not know at the time all the things this juror had said. Guy was not aware that this juror said, I can't convict this man. Guy was not aware that this guy was in the jury room trying to tell everybody, hey, this boy is innocent. Guy didn't know about none of that. So he's a 22-year-old man sitting here fighting for his life, and they say, well, we'll take the death penalty off the table if you let us throw this guy out. So
and he was given like less than 10 minutes, he said they gave him to make that decision.
I say it was a very spur of the moment. And also, I mean, he knew that he was innocent. So he believed that he would be proven innocent. So he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. You know, he didn't realize like what that decision would have done. I mean, but also, who's to say that guy, like, you know, it wouldn't have just kept going and they wouldn't have still stayed guilty, and then he would have had a death penalty. So, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like it all kind of worked out the way everything works out the way it's supposed to work out anyway. You know, God's plan is everything. So, I mean, and maybe that will be maybe this factor will get him his appeal.
What gets him, yeah.
Yeah, Jody, I sent you a thing earlier about a juror being kicked off, and
I shared that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you look into that.
Yeah.
Do either of you feel like his lawyers did everything they could to find Guy's innocence?
Not even close. Not even close. And like Guy said earlier, when it's a state-appointed lawyer, just like his appeal attorney he has now, this man is not being paid out of pocket privately to fight for you. This man is doing the bare minimum to be able to cash in his paycheck and say, I did my job. That's why this appeal this guy just submitted was a quick type it up. Oh, the juror shouldn't have been removed. Submit it. If Guy don't get out of prison, that man still gets to live his life every day. He still gets to go home to his family. And the same thing with these lawyers. They still get their paycheck whether Guy's innocent or guilty.
Yeah. See, that to me almost makes me think that his lawyer may believe that he's guilty because, you know, like Daniel, like he's done all this for the last 3 months, worked so hard to like write up an appeal out of the kindness of his heart, didn't receive any money, just he believed in Guy's innocence. This man is being paid to be his lawyer, and he can't even put in a little bit of work for him. The only part he put in is, oh, well, yeah, technically they did do wrong. But he's not saying, oh, this is why Guy's innocent, which makes me believe that maybe he doesn't necessarily believe it. And like he's obviously not doing it for the right reason.
I also heard Tyler earlier say that the state paid him $400. Well, in my opinion, that's the job he took on for the $400. So he should have stood behind Guy and done what he had to do for Guy. Because like y'all said earlier,
$400.
When Guy was on, it was Guy that said $400, not Tyler.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But that's the job he took on for the $400. So he should have done his job.
I agree with that too. And if I was in that situation and I was a lawyer, yeah, you're going to have to represent some people that are guilty. So honestly, if I'm representing somebody in my heart I feel is guilty, I might not fight tooth and nail for them. You know, they deserve it. They shouldn't have did it. But somebody like my brother, where it's so obvious that this man did not do this, that's the people you actually fight for. That's the people that you build your pride on, defending people who are really innocent.
But I mean, also, Guy had written into him and told him, like, I have somebody looking into it who's writing up stuff. Like, he told his lawyer that. So his lawyer didn't have to do any work. He just had to send in what Daniel wrote up because it was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel's doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Did Guy and his father get along real well?
I mean, I never could think of one time of even my dad and my brother even arguing, let alone having a bad relationship. Like, I mean, my dad and my brother were definitely closer than me and my dad were because my brother was older. It was his first child. My brother was little. My dad and my mom were still together. So there was a bunch more happier times with my brother growing up, you know. My brother got more of the family picture that I didn't get. My dad, my mom, my grandma, everybody all together. You know, those were happy times in my dad's life. My dad loved my mom, and some of the best years of my dad's life were when my brother was a baby. Versus when I was a baby, him and my mom were going through things about to split up, and so my dad and my brother had a much closer relationship than me
Yeah.
and my brother, or than me and my dad did.
You was
Also,
the mama's
too,
boy. He was the
yeah,
daddy's.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also too, though, my brother's never been as mouthy as me. Like I've always been a smart ass. I always say what's on my mind. And me and my dad argued about stuff like that, just like me and my grandma argued. My brother was much more go with the flow, not talk back, very respectful. I've never been respectful. I always talk back. I always say what I feel. And my dad didn't like that. My dad was with a girl before he died, and I didn't like her. I felt like she was a gold digger, and I told him about it, and I told her about it right in front of my dad. Said, "You need to get away from that hoe. She ain't no good." And my dad didn't like that. So me and my dad and my brother had much more in common than me and my dad did.
Yeah, I understand. I lost both of my parents very young, and I guess that's why I've kind of got on this case and I've started doing some studies and I just, want to paint the picture of the all around family because after I lost my mom, my dad was my world. I'm not even going to lie. He could do no wrong. And that goes back to Guy, he loses his mother at a very young age. And from what I've heard, him and Guy were, living together. And so I guess I'm just trying to say that I believe that Guy had a very strong relationship with his dad. Why would he want to hurt him?
You're exactly right. Like my brother was hurt by losing my mom. My brother by no means would want to lose the only parent he's got left. And even like when
Yes.
somebody just brought up, I got to call my brother and tell him my dad's dead. Normally that might not be somebody's first response, but guy already knows in his mind, well, damn, Tyler already lost his mom. He's about to find out his dad's gone too. So
It's like
that's a
that
big
big
deal.
brother. Yeah, and like
That's
that
a
big
big
brother
deal.
instinct kicking in as well.
I mean, people don't usually. I mean, it happens, but like, Guy, this is where he lived. This was his family. This was his immediate, like, every day he saw them family. So you're telling me that he murdered them, knowing that he was about to lose his home, he's about to lose his family. Where did people think he was gonna go? Like, what was he gonna do with his life after that if he had planned to do it? Yeah, he didn't have another plan. Like, he was on drugs, like crashing with his dad and family. He didn't think, oh, I'm just gonna kill all them. And like, there
That's
was
a very good point. I've never heard anybody make that point. But my brother was living there with my dad and them because that's the only place he had to go. When he came back from North Carolina, my grandma kicked him out. He came down here. That's the only place he had to go. So my brother didn't have an option B, a plan B. This was his whole life right now until he made a better situation. So the fact that people think he was going to kill them and then find a new place to live overnight and run away from a murder overnight and just be a murderer walking the street, that's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring that up, because family dynamics is a big thing. Okay, what do you, Tyler, think they used to find Guy guilty? Do you feel that it was taking the juror off of the stand?
I definitely feel like they would have been. I can't say they would have came back with the innocent verdict, but the jury would have been hung had they not took juror 153 off. And when the jury is hung and they can't reach a verdict, it's declared a mistrial, and then the prosecution either has to submit an application to have another trial or they have to dismiss the charges. And so, had they not taken that juror off, it would have been a hung jury. And that right there really hurt my brother. And also, what hurt my brother is them saying that this blood on the shorts was such a big deal. The police tried to make it seem like the blood on these shorts is enough blood for this man to have committed this murder. When what should have been said is, even if you believe this man had something to do with this, the amount of blood present on these shorts is not the amount of blood that would be present on shorts of somebody who just beat 8 people to death.
I
and
agree.
2 people testified and said that he didn't have blood on him when he arrived. So
if you're swinging a weapon, beating people, every time you pick that weapon up, blood flies up. Every time you swing it back down, blood flies down. You're up against them, blood's flying up against your pants, splashing up against you. I mean, it was a bloody, gory scene.
yeah, you couldn't walk through it without getting blood on you. And
I'm not gonna lie.
down onto the bed to help Michael. So I mean, that's
When
why
I
it was like right
watched
there at the bottom.
when I watched the documentary, I cried. I hurt for you and Guy. I'm not going to lie. You know, I didn't lose my parents in that kind of way, but I know how I felt when I lost both of my parents. Um, I was 13 and had neither one of my parents. And I have to say, your grandma is truly, truly amazing. When they turned the trailer back over, who cleaned it out?
I don't know. The trailer never got turned back over to anybody that I knew. The trailer belonged to Joe Isinelli, who owned New Hope. So I guess he was in charge of cleaning that trailer out or moving that trailer. And that's how the hammer came into existence.
It was like a year, wasn't it?
Yeah. After the trailer was moved, cleaned out, and they destroyed the trailer, that's where they found the hammer was under the steps. And so that was a year and a half, 2 years down the line where they found this bloody hammer.
Okay. So I was going to ask, was anything saved from in the trailer? But I take that as a big no because it wasn't turned over to you, your grandma, your aunt, or anyone like that.
No. Yeah.
So
right.
that's a big mistake right there too. Was any of the guns in the house hot that you knew of?
Yes, people made a big deal about my brother saying the gun was stolen, like he made up some crazy story. No, the other shotgun that was in the house, Guy bought from a guy off 4th Street in Brunswick named Skibo. They used to sell crack. That's who Guy bought his crack from. He didn't buy crack from Joe. He bought crack from Skibo, and that's who he bought that gun from, was from Skibo, and he only bought the gun because he got it dirt cheap.
Okay.
He just picked up the wrong one.
Yeah,
I mean,
he just grabbed the wrong gun.
Yeah, he is freaking out. He just found everything. He wasn't thinking I'm about to be, convicted of murder. He was thinking, oh my God, they're gonna find that gun. I'm gonna be in trouble for that. So he just picked up the wrong one.
And on another note too, not only did he pick up the wrong gun, both of the guns were the same exact guns. They weren't the same brand, but they were both 16 gauge shotguns. So it ain't like he went and accidentally picked up a pistol and the other one was a shotgun.
Right.
No, they were very similar in design, very similar in shape.
Yeah, but he was upfront and honest with them when they asked about the gun being in the car, correct?
Yeah, and he was. And I think that also goes to his mindset. If you're trying to cover up a murder, then you're going to take steps to cover up the murder. And moving a stolen shotgun is not covering up a murder. But if you're not guilty, you're thinking about the police are going to walk through here. If you're going to go hide drugs if you got them in that house, or you're going to go hide a stolen thing that could be tied to you. And so that tells me right there, my brother's mindset was not covering up this murder. His mindset is, well, I'm about to go to jail for this stolen shotgun when they walk through here and find it.
I mean, he says that he was walking through looking for the house phone, the cordless phone or whatever, right? And he couldn't find it, but he found the cell phone. And even though people say it will still call 911 if it's out of minutes and stuff, he said he tried, it wouldn't call. So that's why he had that. But I think as he's walking through looking for the phone, I think he saw the other, like the butt of the other shotgun, and that's when he probably thought, oh, that gun is in here, it's stolen. Like, people act like he was sitting outside in the car, like, that gun's in the house. Like, he went in there and went after it. I think he saw that other gun.
He says it's on the floor in the hallway, like, as you're walking down, he said it was on the floor and he picked it up. And that's the funny thing, because, like, the police go, oh, the shotgun was absolutely covered in blood. But then they try and make out like he stepped over this dead body to get it out of a closet. Well, if it was in a closet, then it wouldn't be covered in blood because it would have been shot away in a closet. But actually, when you see the pictures of the gun, there's barely any blood on there, which shows that it's like just got some blood splatter on it, which shows it is where Guy would have said it was, which isn't like in a room where, do you know what I mean? So like everything points to him telling the truth and actually them lying.
And that's why I brought that up. Okay, my next question is, do you know the butt that they found? I'm assuming it was by your father's head. Do you know if that gun was a complete gun?
I think the butt that they found was also in the same room my uncle was in. My dad slept right in front of the front door. I don't think there was no guns by the door.
No, it
But
wasn't. Yeah.
But I'm sure that the guns, one of them wasn't complete and one was, but I didn't know if it was the stolen one that was complete or not. So that right there, I don't know if they were put into pieces before the murders or if they were broken into pieces during the murders. I don't know when the gun got taken apart.
Well, that's why I was asking, because from my understanding, they never found what they considered the weapon for the murder, which was the end of the gun, the barrel of the gun. That's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, that's what they say, that they thought they were beat with.
Yeah, they did say they thought they were beat with the barrel of the gun, but they also made a point in the trial about the marks that were on the bodies, and the marks were like two side-by-side marks, which looked like train track marks. They said there was like an X on some of the people's bodies, and they said the other ones were like flat circles, like from a hammer. So all of the injuries they described, none of those injuries matched the barrel of a shotgun. There was no bead sight from the barrel of a shotgun hitting you. All of the injuries were different than what they described as a barrel of a shotgun. None of the marks line up to what the barrel of a shotgun would make on somebody's body.
Daniel has made a post about that, showing what the end of it looks like, showing that there's a bead, a sight on it, and all that, So I think he's even planning to try to do like a reenactment to show what kind of marks it would make on.
And like how much it would actually stand up to.
Yeah, because that thing would break. You can't beat that many people to death. I mean,
the barrel of a shotgun is not super thick metal either.
No.
Like, it's not going to hold up to a beating like that, and it wouldn't be smart to beat somebody with that. You can't swing that shotgun fast. You can't hit somebody really hard with it. I mean, it's just not a strong weapon to use in any sense.
Yeah, I agree. I have a 16 gauge, so that's what I was
to swing that to hit somebody with the barrel, you'd have to hold it down there by where the trigger is to swing the front of the gun. That would be an awkward position to hold the butt and around the trigger to swing it. There's no clear way to grip it like that where you could actually hit with the barrel.
I agree.
If you wanted to hold the gun sturdy, you would have to hold it in the middle of the gun past the trigger. And then if you held it like that, it'd be like swinging a little tiny nightstick. It wouldn't be like swinging a whole gun.
Yep. And this one, I have another one that may be for Guy also. But this one, do you think when Guy called 911, he knew the family was beaten because he found them and he was in the trailer checking on them? And because on the documentary, the officer said it looked like they had been shot. I believe myself that's why he thought they were, or that's why he had said they had been beaten. Do you agree with that?
Yes, walking in and seeing those bodies, it was completely obvious that they had been beaten to death. People's faces are crushed in, people's bones are broken, they're gashed open. A gunshot makes wounds that look nothing like any of those bodies. I've seen gunshot wounds, and there was no wound on any person that even could be misconstrued for a hole from a gunshot.
I mean, and he went up to each person checking on them. So he was up close and personal to them. So he saw them right there in their face. So it was not he just glanced in and said, oh, yep, they've been beat to death. He went up to each person to see if they were alive. That's how he knew that Michael was alive. So,
yeah,
he could see clearly.
And that was a lie from the police. Had any police officer believed somebody had been shot, they would have done a gunshot residue test that instant. As soon as they got there, they thought the people were shot. They would have done a gunshot residue test on Guy right then and there.
And they would have arrested him for having a gun in his trunk. They'd have thought, immediately that he did it.
So that shows right there, they didn't believe they were shot, not one bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think Guy kept his head down during the trial because he was still hurt as the same day he found y'all's family?
Yes, I believe that. I kept my head down a lot when they were showing the pictures. It's hard to look at that,
That's probably something that he'll forever see in his head.
You don't want to remember your family like that, but that's the last thing you see of them. So in your mind, every time you think of anybody in that house, their name pops up in my head. That's the image that pops up in my head next to it.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Tyler, I heard during the documentary that you said that your family members who were killed, that they are going to be remembered as, the victims that were beaten to death. What do you want America or all across the world to remember about your family other than them being beaten to death?
That's such a great question.
Good question.
If I had to say one statement about that, I would say that even as white, poor, trailer trash people, because that's what we are, I'm still trailer trash to this day.
Me too.
My whole family were honest people. They were hardworking people. They went to work. They paid their bills. They weren't out here selling dope. Only person selling dope was Joe in that trailer, and Joe was not part of my family. Joe was not kin to me. He was just my cousin's boyfriend. He was selling dope. My uncle, my cousin, my dad had just lost his job, but them three adults, they were workers, have worked their whole life. So for everything they had, they bought it with money they earned. They got up and lived an honest life. They didn't steal. They didn't get out here and hustle people. They were good, genuine people. And the whole reason that whole family was living in that trailer is because they were poor and didn't have the money to each all have their own homes. But that says a lot about them right there. They were a family that stuck together. They all had each other's back. That's why my brother was there, because they let my brother stay there when he had nowhere else to go. They gave him food when they didn't barely have food for themselves. It was all love there. Everybody loved each other and looked out for each other. So you can say whatever you want about these people, but they cared for each other and they loved each other. So the fact that they say my brother beat all of them to death is so much more crazier to me, because these are some of the last people that still had love for my brother. My grandma was pissed off at my brother at the time. Nobody else had love for my brother. These were the only people my brother had left.
This one might be for you, but it might be for Guy. And if you can't answer, you can just tell me you don't know. Do you feel any of the jurors even listened to Mr. Knox when he was on the stand? And because he said that through his studies, that it had to be more than one person and things like that.
I honestly feel like they did. I mean, if there was anybody on that stand that you were going to listen to, it would have been Michael Knox. He was a professional in his field, had done multiple cases. Like, he was smart about his job. He wasn't some hillbilly cop that had a badge on. Oh, we're going to investigate these dang murders down here. No, that guy was a knowledgeable, well-educated person who has done his job for years. And everything he said, he could back up with facts. He had a lot of things to explain the things he was saying. He wasn't up there stating opinions. He was stating facts, and if you didn't believe his facts, he could point at the evidence and show you why what he's saying was a fact. He might have been the smartest person that testified in the whole dang trial.
But see, those two girls on the jury, they said, "Oh, we didn't know a lot of what he was saying. It was like he was a teacher. He was teaching us." So, I'm pretty sure they're two of the ones that thought he was innocent at first, and I think that was a part of it, because they had listened to it and they were just kind of like blown away by what he had even said, and then I guess they just lost that, because it is crazy, like how that's what I just said today when we were watching it, like how do you listen to the other things that were said, but then when this man comes on here with all these cold hard facts, like, you don't listen to that, like that right there, all I would have needed was his testimony, like all I would have needed was what he said, and I'd be like, all right, let's go, he's innocent, let's go. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm sorry for all the questions, y'all.
That right there says that they should have an IQ test or some kind of test that jurors have to take. These girls literally said on live TV that they were confused most of the time. So at that point, in your mind that you don't have the knowledge to be able to decide somebody's life. Yet they were still given the chance to decide somebody's life.
Mm.
How hard was it for you to sit through this trial? I know it was, 2 weeks?
It was 8 days, but it wasn't hard. I mean, honestly, I mean, a lot of things, like, I sound cold when I say a lot of stuff, but a lot of things really don't get to me. I'm not easily swayed. I'm not easily hurt. I mean, it sucked that my family was dead. The hardest part was when they convicted him, because in my heart of hearts, I felt like, well, God's going to work this out. There's no way God's going to let this happen. And it did happen. It did. And that's why now I feel that God has a purpose for all of this. That's why it happened the way that it happened. Because for no part of me thought that guy was going to get convicted. I knew he was innocent. I knew when the facts came out, he was not going to get convicted. But all the facts didn't come out. Everything wasn't presented in the trial.
Well, I'm going to leave this question. I'm going to say this question, but I'm going to leave this question alone because from what y'all have already said, it said, did your dad do for you and Guy? And I have to say that you've already answered that question in a million ways. So my last question for you, Tyler, is going to be, was any of y'all able to talk to Guy's attorneys? You or your grandma, your aunt?
We talked to his trial attorneys, the ones that he went to trial with. We spent a lot of time talking to them.
Okay. Well, y'all, that's all I had. And if I can do anything for y'all just let me know. This case has really caught me, and I'm not going to lie. I live close to Brunswick. I can go down there, do any interviews with anybody y'all need me to, or just help with money, whatever I need to do. I'm standing behind Guy 100%, and I'm glad that y'all have brought this to life.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I would like to say, just like we're always saying, we're looking for people with new ideas and people that can help. I'm saying this to every individual person and to you too, ma'am, in the aspect that when you're going throughout your day-to-day life, if you happen to encounter somebody that's talking about law or talking about criminal cases, and it strikes you like this person might really know something, this person might have some knowledge that could help get Guy free, those are the people we're looking for. We're not just looking for any Joe, Dick, and Jane. We're looking for people like Daniel who can take information, who can examine it, who can pick it apart. We need more people like that.
Now I have an attorney friend in Arkansas. I'm gonna get with him this next week. He's young, he's stubborn. He reminds me a lot of you, talking with you, Taylor. He's even got the mayor. He's filed a lawsuit against the mayor where I'm from. So I want to talk with him and see if he can pick some heads and help you guys.
Well, anybody that you talk to, if they want to talk to me, Jody, Brianna, Guy, we can set it up to talk to people. We're not trying to hide nothing here. We have nothing that we're doing behind the scenes. We are trying to be transparent with everybody. We can tell you everything we know. We can show you everything we have because we know my brother's innocent, and we know when we get in front of the right people that can make a decision, they'll make the decision that my brother's innocent because they'll see the same things that we see.
I agree. I seen it. Like I said, I've been studying this case, and I asked all these questions, and you answered them, and down in my heart, I just really feel that he is innocent. And Brunswick and Glenn County are shitty people down there, and it is coming to light.
Yeah.
Yes, living in Brunswick, be very careful. Living around there, you could be out just going through your everyday life and you can get caught up in something. So you be very careful living down there. It's very dangerous.
Nope. Yep. I worked there for 2 years. I don't work there no more. So, all right. Y'all have a good day, and I appreciate y'all for answering my questions.
Thank you. Okay, Tanya, you're next to call in. Is there anyone else that wants to call in after? Hopefully she should call in. Yep, she's calling in. I thought that was a really good question about what do you want them to be remembered for?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Okay, Tanya, you're on now.
Hi guys. I just have a question for you. How do you deal with the community knowing your brother is convicted of what he's convicted of, and are they against you or are they with you?
Well, I don't live down there no more. This was a big reason I moved away from there because there was a negative cloud over my life because of this. And here in North Carolina, not many people really know about it unless they've heard about it through us or they've seen the page. So, I mean, as long as I'm not in Brunswick, Georgia, nobody really knows the life that I've lived. Nobody really knows what I've been through. So, I mean, I go on with my day-to-day life. I go to work, I go to church, I pay my bills. I just move how I move. I don't do nothing fancy. I don't live a crazy life anymore. So, I mean, I'm dealing with it well. God has given me strength. I got a much better head on my shoulders than I had. I'm not on drugs anymore. I'm doing a lot better now, and I thank God for that. But this will always be my story. So I'm hoping when my brother gets free, the story will be a different one. Then it'll be a different story we'll be telling.
I haven't really
Yes.
found many people who will tell Tyler to his face that they think his brother is guilty. I mean, we have every now and then we run into people who are like, like they don't believe it, or they think we're just, covering for him because we're his family and stuff. But like I said, most of those people won't say anything to his face. So people aren't
Okay.
hateful to us or anything about it, except for
Yeah.
online.
Yeah. So, as an ex-drug addict and being incarcerated myself, after my incarceration, I feel like people have a way of talking to me. Maybe that's just my own personal thing, but saying that if I was a drug addict, being your brother, and having the drugs on the counter there and having access to all those drugs in that trailer, then it would be like my fantasy. But he didn't. I know he's innocent, and I know that he didn't do this. So what would other people be thinking about it, the motive of it? If the drugs are left on the counter, the money is left in their pockets, being an ex-drug addict, everything would have been gone.
I mean, people try to say that his motive was that he thought my dad had this money, and obviously my dad didn't have the money. We all knew that. And the pills that the police made such a big deal about, my brother didn't take pills like that. That was my drug of choice. That's what I did. I took prescription pills. My brother smoked crack. Them pills were nothing to him. He only took them pills because they were just in the house, and he decided to pop one. He wasn't going to kill the whole family to get them.
And like she said, that money clearly wasn't a robbery or anything because there was money in pockets and stuff. So it was clearly for another reason.
And the Darvocets too are dirt cheap pills. Those are like the weakest of weakest pain pills you can get. My brother had $400 on him. He could have got a whole script of Darvocets for $80.
Right. Yes, I understand what you're saying. Like this is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, like, if you're a crack addict or you're a pill addict or whatever addict you are, you can go in there and you could have took everything in there and traded it for something else. See what I'm saying? So he could have took the pills and traded it for crack, or he could have did. So I mean, why would he have killed his family members for just like a 10 $10 wrap of crack or what? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
to me being a drug addict, an ex-drug addict, once an addict, always an addict. But for me, it doesn't make any sense for him to go in there and leave the pills behind and kill his whole family and leave the pills behind. Hey, he could have took those pills and he could have sold them for 10 crack. You know what I'm saying? And then it just doesn't make any sense. And then Glenn County is totally disrespectful in the total sense, because they are not doing what they're supposed to do. They didn't bag and tag his stuff the way that they were supposed to. They didn't do anything for Guy that they were supposed to.
I think that's a good point. And also, you talking about you were an ex-drug addict. I used to be on drugs. Everybody who's looked at this case might be a teacher or might do lawn work. It doesn't take a genius to look at what Glenn County did and see that they did not handle this good at all. Everybody in the world can look at this case and see these guys really messed it up. They really dropped the ball.
I mean, and now they're in the spotlight, so everybody can like really see that it's not just this case. It's not just a family saying, "Oh yeah, they messed us up." It's multiple cases now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Multiple cases, but it's just like it hurts my heart for you guys. I mean, I did time. My husband's in prison still yet doing his time, but hey, it's all good. But I just wish the best for you and Guy and Jody, because Jody is fighting like a warrior, and I appreciate you having me on this podcast. And God bless you guys.
Thank you,
Well,
ma'am.
thank
Keep
you.
spreading the word. Keep spreading the word.
Yes, I spread my word all the time because God is good, God is great, and ain't no better than God.
To
Thank
God be all
you.
the glory.
God bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyone else want to call in? Oh yeah, Emily, I saw that one. Sorry. Okay, Tyler and Brianna, is there anything else you two want to talk about to do with the documentary or to not to do with the documentary?
No, not really. Only thing I want to say on this is that obviously the documentary has touched a lot of people. Obviously, a lot of people see our pain. A lot of people feel sorrow for us because of things that have happened. And the reason that it happened this way is because what has happened to my brother is wrong, but wrong stuff happens to good people all day, every day. And people aren't willing to fight for them. So when people see this documentary and they see that, hey, this man's really been wrong, his brother's crushed, his grandma's crushed, I want people to take that feeling that they have and turn it and channel it into what can we do to help this man? How can this man get free from prison from something we done? There might be somebody listening to this podcast right now who knows somebody who could help us or who could help us contact the highest attorney in Georgia to help us fight. And that's really what we're asking. We're not just asking for any old help. We're asking for help that puts us in the right direction. We got a lot of smart people like Jody, Daniel, other people that are involved in this that can put our facts together. What we need now is we need an ear. We need an ear of somebody important, an ear of somebody like that guy who helped the West Memphis Three, somebody famous on Instagram. We need somebody that's going to spread our word to such a high level that we can get somebody involved who can actually make a change. That's what we need from this.
I mean, we're not, we haven't been out here trying to scam people out of money or, do anything like just use people. Like we're genuinely just asking for help to like anything that anyone can do to help us get his name out there. Like, even if you don't have expertise in certain areas, like just share it, like get it out there. The more people it touches, the more likelihood we have of someone it falling into the right hands.
The right hands, yeah.
I mean, we may eventually do some kind of fundraising in the future, but we definitely won't be out here selling popcorn.
And just like my boss says at work, I would never ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And I say that to everybody. I would never ask anybody involved in this to do something I'm not willing to do myself. So if you're somebody that we need to speak to, I'll speak to them. Somebody I need to type a letter to, I'll talk to them. Somebody I need to explain it to, I'll explain it. I'm not asking anybody to do something I wouldn't do myself. But I'm willing to take this all the way to the highest level and fight whoever I got to fight to get my brother out of prison.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to die knowing that I didn't do everything I could do to get my brother free from prison.
I just want to add that, there's been people that have come for me and Jody and Jody's crazy and I'm crazy and we just, whatever. But, Jody is Guy's representation. She's his woman. So he can't get on here and just speak whenever he wants to. And Tyler is constantly working or something. So I am his woman. I'm his representation, and we do lead with our feelings and our emotions because we care for them, you know?
Mm.
So we're just trying to do the best thing that we can do for them, for our family, you know? That's all we're trying to do, you know? We're not trying to get anything from anybody. We're just trying to make sure
Yeah.
everybody has the facts out there, and we're just trying to do whatever we can do, you know, behind the scenes. But
And somebody said that Jody and Brianna were over emotional females. That's the problem. We don't have enough emotional people. We want more people to be pissed off, more people to be
Yeah.
mad, say this shit shouldn't be happening. This ain't how things should go. We need more people with emotion, more people that want to stand up and say this shit ain't right, and we're going to do whatever the hell we got to do to get it overturned. Because if not, this man's going to rot away in prison.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're willing to put ourselves out there and look crazy, and
Yeah.
we don't care, you know? You can think we're crazy. You can think that guy's guilty. That's fine. But, I mean,
Move
on
along.
to the next person. Yeah, exactly. The ratio of guilty to innocent, like, opinions are way in our favor.
And the funny thing is, it's like all the ones that say guilty are the ones that don't want to look at the evidence that we want to show them. They're the ones that believe that the police can do no wrong. No, police wouldn't do that. Police are not corrupt. You know, that's the type of people that believe he's guilty, from what the ones that I've spoken to. No, look, see, the media said this, the media said this, but and you always believe the media, do you? Well, you know, it's come from the police chief's mouth, and the police chief is always, you know, perfect, are they? Okay.
I mean, we've heard stories that people have told, and, you know, like, Tyler can just kind of, you know, think back to that time and be like, now this person, I don't even know this person. Like, she's saying she knew me, or that she talked to me, or that he knew me, you know. It's just people will come up with crazy stuff to try to prove a point or something. It's like, why? You just want to have something to say, don't you? You just want to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And these people, they don't feel it till it happens to them. They think my brother's guilty right now because the police ain't never done nothing wrong to them.
Yeah.
But whenever the police come and lock your grandma up for something she didn't do, come holler at me.
Yeah. Well said. Okay. I don't think anyone else is calling in, so if you two haven't got anything else to say.
I think that's it.
Yeah, we're good, Jody. I think this went good. I thank everybody for listening. I feel the love coming in all directions. And, you know, I don't have the time every day to go out and think into each individual person. But the people that are helping us, the people that are supporting us, the people that are praying for us, know that you're in my thoughts and prayers too. And know that when my brother does get out of prison one day, that I will stand up and I will thank everyone. And the people who had major hands in it, like you and Daniel, I will thank them personally. And if we get something out of this, it will be shared with everybody that helps us, because we need my brother out. And at the end of the day, if my brother gets out and we don't get a dime for the years they took from him, at least my brother's free.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll host a meet and greet.
Yeah,
autograph.
We'll sign something. Yeah.
There you go.
We'll just put like overly. We'll sign it, Brianna. Like overly emotional female 1, and like an overly emotional female 2.
There you go.
Okay, thank you so much for you two for coming on.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then
thank you, Jody.
Thank you. And then next week, Guy is back on again doing another question and answer session. So if you've got questions for Guy for next week, then all you need to do is to leave them on the Guy's Voice Facebook page. So thank you everybody for listening. And this is going to be up there in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Pray for us.
Thank
Pray
you.
for us.